Please join me in a warm welcome of Mark Ritchie.
Thank you, Mark, and thanks to all the organizations that did so much work to both think about and make this event happen. And welcome to all of you who come, some from short distances and some from a really long ways away for this important topic. Minnesota is a little unusual in the sense of it does snow early, but that just gets us focused very quickly on what we need to do. And most of the time when it's starting to snow, we're also thinking about our elections. In fact, I'm running my first elections, my first general elections in 10 days. And so there's a lot of activity happening around that. A lot of you have been through that early steep learning curve about elections at some point in your life. I'm kind of late in my life doing this. But one of the things that I've learned in that process is that this nation has no idea about what goes into making elections and what goes into making election administration work in this country. And it's been one of my great privileges and honors to learn that from the inside and from the backside and from all angles. But I also know that it creates a responsibility for me to spend time every day and every week talking to the public, to a reporter or to a VFW group or to the Rotary or whoever will have me, and explaining to them about this amazing system we have that makes democracy work in this country. But it's also true that many people are worried about the integrity of that process. You know, I would campaign, I'd be walking down a street in a parade, shaking hands out in some suburb, and people would grab my arm literally and say, don't let them steal our elections, or don't let Diebold in the state, or whatever they would think. And it's, you know, not because that's our situation, it's because they read the national newspapers, they watch television. There is a concern in this country about the integrity, safety, the security of our elections, and it is in such sharp contrast with the general condition and the general security and the general well-being of our election system. So there's a big disconnection. The thing that's been important for me about our move towards post-election audits, and today you will be meeting some of the mothers and fathers of that process here in Minnesota, but also many of you are doing similar things already. That process has been really critical for helping to just reinforce and then reestablish in some people's mind the security integrity of the system. But obviously we have to do a lot more. This opportunity to share techniques and ideas about post-election audits is a really important next step. But nobody in the room has missed the fact that sitting here this morning are 100 of the most creative, concerned, committed, real professionals in the whole area of election administration, and there are many other topics that this community of people could discuss and could in a very positive way, begin moving some of the agenda forward around election administration and election integrity. So I'm hopeful that today isn't, or this conference isn't the last time we gather, that this topic isn't the last one we talk about, but that this is just the beginning of a very advanced dialogue that we can have. Minnesota has 33 years of experience with election day or same day registration. There's a lot of amazing things that happen when you have election day administration. One of them is people vote. They turn out in very large numbers. And next year we anticipate something around 80% of our eligible voters will vote. We've never had an election like next year, or at least since 1956 actually, when we'll have a presidential in this state, a hot Senate race, very, very competitive congressional races that we haven't had for years. Our entire House of Representatives at the state level will be up, and the control over the House will be part of the outcome, and of course then the control over the redistricting process is part of that. At the same time, we will have somewhere between 100 and 200 levies for school district budgets. Some of you in your states have this problem of if the state can't figure out how to support local schools, there have to be levy elections. all of these things are hot races, so we're going to have a big year next year. So the bigger the elections, of course, the harder it is for administrators, the more stress and strain it is on staff, the more problems arise just out of sheer numbers, and also the more crucial it is that people feel a great confidence, a great comfort that it's going to be done well and that people can trust the outcome. I'm hopeful that today's conversation and the conversations that you will continue to have will help Minnesota do an even better job of our post-election audits. We're new at it. I think we feel very good about what we've done so far, but we can always make it better. But what I'm really hopeful is that this opportunity to gather begins the creation of a community of interest, a community of conversation, so that election audits stay on our agenda, but some other very important topics begin to emerge as well. It's time for this great democracy, this great election administration system to be given the kind of sunshine that it needs from the positive side, because so far what we've only seen, more or less, in the newspapers and the media has been the negative side. This whole country's democracy, the constitutional aspect of it, the basic rights, there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of crisis in that whole conversation in the nation. I don't think that comes as a surprise to anybody. We're debating things that probably many of us never thought would be debated in our lifetime. And so at this moment in the national history, in the national political scene, it is more important than ever that the strong, secure, amazingly creative underlying systems of our elections get the kind of positive light that they need. And things like post-election audits, which help contribute to that, can be some of those hooks for the media and for others that can help lift up the positive story. I want to personally thank Mark Halverson, who, more or less as a volunteer and as a point of passion in his life, not only has helped bring this together, but in this state helped both bring together the idea to get it passed, to round up the hundreds of volunteers it took to work, and to very patiently sit and listen to all the stakeholders that it took to create an post-election audit process that we all felt great about at the end of the process. Mark's passion and devotion to this, I think, is reflected in many of you in this room, but he's made a very special contribution to Minnesota, and I want to thank him for that. Thank you for coming to Minnesota. I look forward to the next gathering like this. If it's in the middle of the winter and it's further south, we're always happy about that. But in the summer of 2009, some of you plan that far ahead, I know, Minnesota will be hosting the next National Association of Secretary of State's Summer Conference. We're going to make a very special point of making sure that all of you and others know that you are welcome and invited. Certainly there are sessions that are just for the secretaries, there's always that. But in 2009, we will reflect back on a 2008, a huge election, a very dysfunctional nomination process. I don't even know when it'll start. We'll also have the good and the bad and the ugly of the election process and machinery. There'll be much to talk about in June, or be June at that point, of 2009. And you will all get a special invitation, but I want you to know that you're going to be very welcome, and we want you to come back then. Don't wait until then if you don't need to, but please think about holding those dates and coming back and seeing us again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary Ritchie, and thanks to everyone for coming. I'm Pamela Smith from Verified Voting Foundation, one of the sponsors of this event.